Okay, well, thank you so much for hanging around till the very end of the day. Ross is telling me my time's up already. So as Elaine mentioned, I'm head of cartography at CARTO. And today what I want to present about is a Python package called CARTOframes that we've been working on for a while, and it actually was born out of a side project of my colleague Andy Eschbacher here, who you see, and you may have heard him present about this a couple of years ago in Montreal. And so, in a nutshell, CARTOframes, I'm just going to read this, is a Python package for integrating CARTO maps analysis and data services into a data scientist's workflow. And so when I talk about context switching and the frustrations with that is basically Andy, as a data scientist, he would be doing a lot of his analysis and integrating other Python libraries and things inside of what data scientists use, a Jupyter Notebook, and then would constantly have to export the results, import them into CARTO to be able to visualize them and create interactive web maps. So CARTOframes hopes to get over that issue. So the other thing about CARTOframes is that it works in current environments that data scientists are familiar with. So that's things like Jupyter Notebooks. It integrates with other data science libraries like Pandas, Matplotlib, Scikit, just to name a few. And I'm not an expert on any of those, but my colleagues are. So really what's great is that it ties in with the wider Python ecosystem. So data scientists, when they're using this, don't have to go to an unfamiliar place to utilize. In terms of who can use CARTOframes, you don't have to have a CARTO account because you can use CARTOframes, again, inside of your notebook and use Pandas and GeoPandas data frames and GeoJSON. Of course, you do get a little bit more functionality, reading and writing and querying from your CARTO tables and using additional data services and analysis services and things like that. Okay, so my company has actually had a conference, a one-day conference today called the Spatial Data Science Conference. And obviously I'm not there, but I did see this slide from my boss, Javi, here, and it says, it is time to move from visualizing data on maps to analyzing data using maps. And when I saw that, what it really made me think of is how important, as we all know, cartography is to the data exploration process that data scientists do. So it's not only key to the presentation of the final results, but as you're working through, and I keep saying data science workflows, but really all of us do it. We get data, we clean data, we look at the attributes, we symbolize different attributes, and we really try to understand the data through visual analysis as well as other types of analysis. And so one of the pieces of CARTOframes that I've been working on quite a bit is integrating maps. And in the previous version that Andy had started working on, we had raster maps, and it used our raster mapping library, carto.js. And the new and improved CARTOframes is currently built around two of our other front-end libraries, CartoVL, which last year I kind of talked about that at NACIS, and it is our vector-based thematic cartography visualization library. And another library that we're using is Airship, and that's what we use for the layout legends, widgets, and pop-ups. So you can use CARTOframes to make custom maps. So this is just an example of, and I know it looks kind of crazy, but this isn't what we would expect like a data scientist to be able to just right away do. But what we have tried to do is abstract the process to create something like this. And we've abstracted it even further by creating a set of visualization layer helpers. So basically what these are cartographic defaults that data scientists can easily access during their workflows. And I'm not sure if you can see, I'm old and blind too, so yeah, so you can see here, for example, this is called a color bins layer, this is called a color continuous layer, and this is called a color category layer. And I actually want to show a demo of these, so let me just go into that. This is a Jupyter Notebook. Again, I'm not doing any really involved data science stuff here, but what I did want to do is kind of walk through how you would go about using some of these helper methods. And I also, so this is a Jupyter Notebook, and it's running in a local environment. And if you're interested in learning more about how to do that, if you don't already know how, I'll put the link at the end, but we do have our CARTOframes repo, and we also have a developer center where you can learn more. We're currently in beta 3, beta 4 will be out next week-ish, so it's still in active development, and if you use it, please let us know what you think and let us know what's working well, what's not, what you wish was there, etc. So I'm just going to stay in this Collab notebook. So this is basically a Google Collab notebook, which, you know, for when you use like a Google Doc or Google Slides like I'm using, it's kind of the same thing. It lives in the cloud and you can collaborate with people on it. So the first thing that I'm doing here is installing the beta version of CARTOframes, okay? And as I mentioned previously, you can use or not use a CARTO account. I am using a CARTO account with some public data. There's all kinds of different ways that you can use private data sets, et cetera, which I'm not going to go into for this presentation, but let me know if you have any questions. So to get started, what we have to do is import, as we go along, certain things from CARTOframes. So right here, what I'm doing is I'm importing the map and layer class. And what that gives me, sorry, I meant to not have these cells run, but what this gives me is a map right here. And this is a layer, England_Wales population. And so you can see this is a zoomable, panable, interactive map. By default, when you add layers, you could add multiple layers. We provide default symbology. But then, if we want to actually make this a thematic map, so here, this time what I'm going to do is import one of those visualization layers that I was telling you about, the color bins layer. And if I run this, so right here what I've done is I've replaced the generic layer that we saw up here with this visualization layer called color bins layer. I'm still using the same data set, and I'm providing it an attribute, and you'll see what this is here in a second. And so just like that, now what I have is a Corpus Map of population density, and this includes an appropriate legend and pop-up hover interactivity. Okay, so that's good because sometimes, well, what we've learned from data scientists is that they're not really always good at making good cartographic defaults, but that doesn't mean that other people are going to actually want these defaults. So what we've incorporated is a whole bunch of parameters that can be customized. So in here, what I'm doing, which is kind of also a really cool feature inside of notebooks, is that you can actually look at some documentation in here. So what I'm just asking here is, can you give me basically help on this layer so I can understand better what some of the parameters are that I can modify. And so here what you get are all of the parameters that are available for you to modify, as well as what the defaults are. So if we look at maybe customizing that, so we're still looking at the color bins layer, and it's still using the same data set, the same attribute. Sorry, the population density was actually the title that is assigned to the legend, and the, oh, I've turned the pop-up off, so. Anyways, and I'm doing manual breaks here. And I've added some additional information for my legend, like a description where the data source came from. And I've also added a widget that I can use to filter and interact with the data. So as I zoom in, the histogram updates. Okay, so there's a bunch of these different helper methods. So, and you'll see that with just basically the table name, the attribute, and some additional parameters that I can modify, I can make a variety of different maps. So I'm just gonna run some of these. So again, here's a default color continuous layer. And these are geometry agnostic. So even if I had a line data set here, it doesn't really matter. Or if it was a polygon data set, I don't need to do anything different to color those geometry types. And this is the same map with some additional customizations. Here I've modified the color scheme, the size of the points, and in terms of the color scheme here, it's using one of our CARTO color schemes, but you can actually, put in named colors, hex colors, RGB, HSV, color brewer, etc. And even if you don't provide a full range of colors, what happens is we do the interpolation in perceptual color space in the background. So that's like kind of a nice feature too, to be able to modify those things. Okay, and I'm just gonna go a little bit faster. Size continuous. This is a cluster size layer. So actually this one's pretty cool because by default, if I just provided the data set name and remove some of the parameters other than color and stroke color, just to overwrite the default colors, I get a cluster map, and you'll see that the legend dynamically updates, etc. And what I had in there before was just doing a different aggregation resolution and some different calculations. Okay, and I'm almost hurrying up here. Okay, so you can also combine these visualization layers like this, and when you do that, you do get both data sets with their pop-up or hover information, and pretty much everything in black here are things that I'm customizing. So again, you just provide the table name and the attribute that you want to map, and then you can go from there to kind of customize it how you want. You can do layouts, and you can set a custom viewport for the layout. So here we're just looking at the different drought values for 1 week, so 0, 1, 2, and 3, just for comparison. Excuse me. You can change the base map. You can use no base map. You could just add a layer as a simple base map. In this example, I am using our dark base map, and then that automatically kind of changes the UI to a dark theme. And again, setting a custom viewport. And then also what you can do is print or publish your map and get a URL that you can share. So, sorry, and I didn't let anybody look at that. I'm sorry. There's so many other things I want to show you how to do, but in the interest of my presentation should be already done right now, I will stop. And here's all of my awesome colleagues that I've been working on CARTOframes with. So, and again, there's our GitHub and Developer Center if you'd like to check it out. And thank you.